Hi everyone, I'm Jacinta. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to tell you a little bit about my life and my faith at this time. I live here in Oxford with my husband Tom and our two beautiful children, and we've been at St Aldates for about 7 years now. Back in my 20s, I was living in Hong Kong and running my own business, hyper involved in my church and living life to the full. I lived so hard I got myself to the point of complete burnout and had what I can only describe as a serious mental health crisis. It knocked me out of action for a good 4 or 5 years. But during that time, God was completely faithful, and He gave me tools of writing and art to help me along my recovery journey. I spent hours every day sitting down and writing out as honestly as I could all the things that were happening inside my head. I had the slightly naive intention of having a good testimony to bring out the other end of my experience. I thought, I'll tell everyone my story, how it was really, really hard, but God fixed me. That's what I thought. But I found that as I wrote, the more questions came up, the more uncertain I became about all the things that I had been so sure about before. I also became very aware of how powerful the brain is, and how when it's not well, it has the power to destroy a life. But the Bible offers the other option of letting God renew the mind and turn things around into a better direction. And that's when I decided that I needed to go back to school to feed my brain and get myself into a healthier place. So fast forward a couple of years and we'd moved to England, and I had enrolled in a PhD program in creative writing in London so that I could explore and study the reason that people have this impulse to tell each other stories. I was really nervous on the way to university to meet my supervisor for the first time. He was a man that I really respected, and I was very worried that he wouldn't think I was up to the job. But I kept returning to the same verse in the Bible, the one from 1 Peter 3:15, where it says, "Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have." I went into the meeting and he was a lovely guy, and he said to me, "Look, I don't normally do this, but I know you're writing a faith story, and I have a faith story too, and I just felt that I wanted to share this with you." And he proceeded to give me the exact same verse. So I took that as a good sign. And the other thing that I came away from my studies with was a renewed appreciation for the idea of uncertainty. It comes from, this one comes from Keats, the poet, and he says, "Negative capability, that is, when a man is capable of being in uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason." So I came away from my studies with two major ideas. The first being that, yes, it's important to tell each other stories, and second, that no, it doesn't matter if you don't have all the answers to give. I graduated with my PhD by the skin of my teeth. I took that as a bit of a miracle because I'm dyslexic and not academically inclined at all. But I walked away thinking, there we go, I've written the book now. I understand the logic and the theory behind what I've done. Hopefully I've finished all the hard things in life. God's been faithful to me. Life should hopefully get really boring and uneventful now. I was wrong. At around the same time that I was getting ready to graduate, my husband Tom and I decided it was time to take a step toward our interest in becoming foster parents. We underwent the year-long process of becoming approved, and just towards the end of that year, we needed to fulfill the requirement of doing a pediatric first aid course. In the same week, Tom and I both did the one-day training course, not knowing that within a couple of days, we would need to use the skills that we had learned on the course on one of our own children. A major accident happened at home, and if we hadn't learned what we had learned that week, things might have turned out really differently. But for the past 2 years, we've been dealing with the repercussions of that incident. It's been really, really hard. So that traumatic incident marks the beginning of what I am now able to refer to as a near comical season of tragedy in our lives, where almost every direction we've turned, something's gone wrong, or so it seemed. We're now on a long and winding road of physical and psychological recovery. There's been identification of previously hidden disabilities in multiple family members. We're navigating a shift from the role of parents to parent carers. and learning how to tell our story in a way that's honest, but also respecting the guardianship we hold over our children's privacy and dignity. I think this is abundant life. There are some days that demand more sacrifice than I knew I could give, and there are lots and lots of days that are absolutely overflowing with blessing and wonderful things. I have slowly learned to let go of that impulse and desire I have to wait till everything is perfect and fixed and tidy, tied up with a neat ribbon, before I can testify. I'm learning now that negative capability really does matter, and that the faith I have isn't there in spite of doubt and mystery and uncertainty, but actually is there because of them at this point in my life. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you're all well.